Hi all, welcome to my channel. Welcome to Crafting with Joel. Today is Monday, April 7th. I haven't posted a video in a little bit. I'm having some medical problems right now, so I'm going to keep this really brief. I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing. You might wonder why on earth I went from a green to this blue. And what happens when you run out of a color in the middle of a project. So, I started knitting this sweater about a month ago. And I know usually I can get sweaters done a lot faster. This one is taking me longer. One, I'm having some medical issues, so I'm not knitting as much as I've been knitting in the past. Two, there are days where I just don't feel like knitting. But I'm working on it right now. So, what happened? You might be wondering what happened with this sweater and why I had to switch yarns. So, let's go back to the beginning stages of when I first started buying the yarn for this sweater. Well, the yarn needed for this type of a sweater was a DK weight yarn. And you might be wondering, what the hell is the DK yarn? It's kind of in the middle of the yarns. There's lace, fingering, sport. I'm going to skip over the DK, then you go into the worsted, and then the jumbos and the chunkies and all of that. So DK weight yarn is right after sock and fingering yarn, but it's just before worsted. And you might be wondering, what's the difference between a worsted weight yarn, a DK yarn, and a sock or a fingering yarn? Well, sock and fingering yarns are really lightweight yarns. In Europe, a lot of people will double knit with fingering weight. If you knit with 2 strands of fingering weight, that actually will give you a DK weight in Europe. Worsted is the heavier of the yarns. So a worsted weight yarn is a lot heavier than a DK. Well, not a lot heavier, but it's above a DK. DK is kind of a middle ground, where it's not too hot, not too cool. It's kind of, in the United States, just right. Well, the pattern for this sweater was written for a DK weighted yarn. And you might have seen the red sweater that I did. I completed it. It looks phenomenal. That was done with a worsted weight. And you might be wondering, why was that done with the worsted weight? It was done with the worsted weight because I could not get a DK weight yarn. And I was able to do gauge with the worsted weight, and I wanted a little bit of a heavier sweater. Now, in this case, I wanted a little bit lighter of a sweater, so I wanted to do a DK weighted yarn. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because none of the shops had a DK weight yarn that I wanted in a color. So I ended up going to a yarn store here in Chicago, and I bought this wonderful merino / silk weight yarn. But here's the kicker. I was told it's a DK weight, and it's actually a sport weight yarn. It's not a DK. It's actually one below one below a DK. So it's a lighter weight yarn. Now, the problem with... I'm going to stop for a second because I'll get excited and I'll give myself vertigo. The problem with knitting a sweater in a sport or a fingering weight yarn is that certain patterns are going to suck the yarn up and you're going to use twice as much. Now, for the red sweater that I knitted with the worsted weight, I was able to use almost 8.5 skeins of yarn, or hanks. I'm going to call them hanks because it's easier for me to say. So 8.5 balls made the red sweater. Unfortunately, where I am with this sweater right now, I have used a total of 10 sport weight. Now, granted, the balls are a lot smaller than an actual hank of yarn that I used on the red sweater. The red sweater yardage was about 240 to 247 yards per ball. This is a little bit under 190 yards. So this actually, I had to buy more of this yarn. Unfortunately, when I bought the shop's yarn, I bought her out of this green. And unfortunately, she doesn't carry that yarn anymore in this particular color. So I knew when I got to this point right here, I was not going to have enough yarn to finish this sweater. Because I still, if you can see, I still have a couple more patterns to do on the body, but I still have to do the sleeves. Now, I do have this color reserved for the sleeves, so I can complete the sleeves. But unfortunately, this pattern uses an incredible amount of yarn. So what happened is I had to change colors. So when you're looking at yarn for your projects, if you're going to use a lighter weight yarn, especially for a sweater, you need to make sure and do mathematic equations that you have enough yardage. Now, if a pattern says use DK weight yarn, and it's going to take for this pattern sweater, it takes approximately 1,840 some odd yards for the size that I need to use. So if you're using not a DK weight, but you're using a lower weight yarn, you need to figure out the yardage, because you are going to use more yardages for the lighter weight sweater to get these stitches to come out. So when you're shopping for yarns, and before you go out and you have a project in mind, let's say you're going to you want to do a sweater, you need to figure out how many balls of yarn it's going to take to complete the sweater. You also might need to factor, especially if a sweater design has these really fancy stitches. Now, I'm gonna go so you guys can see this. This is what they call a brioche, and I showed you what a brioche stitch is. It's the same front and back, so it's exactly the same. This uses a lot of yarn. So you need to figure that out, and you need to be savvy when you're buying yarn for sweaters or for big projects, because sometimes you'll go to the store, you'll see a beautiful color of yarn, you might get 5 balls out of it, but will 5 balls actually make you a sweater? And you need to take the yardage in consideration. So always when you go shopping for your yarns for a big project such as sweaters, make sure you have enough money to buy all of the yarn at once. You don't want to go buy 1 or 2 balls at a time, because chances are down the road said store may not have enough yarn for you to complete your project, and you're going to regret it once you start doing this beautiful pattern, or a beautiful pattern, and you get more than halfway through it, and I'm more than halfway through it, you may have to change color. Now, I am going to do one thing more to this sweater, I'm going to change colors again because of how this contrasts. This is not a smooth transition, and you guys can definitely see I went from a green to a blue. So my final stitches on this sweater are going to be dark green to hopefully tie in all of the colors. And sometimes you might need to do that to complete your projects. So I hope you guys were able to follow along with this. The next video that I'm going to film will be done probably within a week, maybe a little bit longer. We're going to talk about crocheted yarn. And yes, if you are a crocheter and not a knitter, you are going to use a lot more yarn crochet-wise than you are as a knitter. And there is a project that I am dying to try, and that's a hexagon cardigan or a hexagon sweater. But it's crocheted, it's not knitted. Just because I need a little bit of a break from knitting. I've been knitting for a lot of, I've been knitting a lot now. I need to get back into crocheting and then back into knitting so I can have the best of both worlds. So if you are a crocheter and purchasing yarn, just remember your crochet patterns are going to use a lot more yarn than as a knitter, and keep that in the back of your mind. Anyway, it was great seeing you and with this chat. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit the like button, leave me a comment. I will see you on the next Crafting with Joel video.